Can you pronounce these American states and cities correctly? I hear a lot of mistakes with these names because in most cases the pronunciation doesn't match the spelling. Don't worry, today I'll make it very easy for you. You'll learn how to correctly pronounce these places like a native. Welcome back to JForrest English. Of course, I'm Jennifer. Now let's get started. Our first place, the quintessential American city. How do you say this? Listen to me. Manhattan. Manhattan. Now, did you notice I did not pronounce those T's at all? This is called a glottal stop. Manhattan. Manhattan.
So you're in Manhattan.
On the Manhattan Project.
Museums in Manhattan.
If you didn't use a glottal stop, you would say Manhattan. Tin. Notice that N part would be pronounced as an unstressed tin. Manhattan. Manhattan. But I listened to the first 20 clips on the website Youglish, and 0 of the speakers used this pronunciation. All speakers used the glottal stop and said Manhattan. Let's review some example sentences. I spent the weekend exploring Manhattan with my friends. The cost of living in Manhattan is one of the highest in the world. Have you ever been to Central Park in Manhattan? So, have you? I have, and it's a beautiful place. I hope you have as well. Don't worry about taking these notes. I summarize everything in a free lesson PDF. You can find the link in the description. And if you want me to review your pronunciation so I can fix any mistakes or help you sound natural, you can join the Finally Fluent Academy. This is a complete program to give you the training, guidance, and support you need to understand natives and sound fluent and natural in English. You can go to my website or click the link in the description to learn more and join today. Let's review this very fun city, Las Vegas. Las Vegas. Notice the pronunciation looks like it should be las because you see an AS, but in American English it's pronounced loss, loss, and a very fast loss, loss. And then the stress is on ve, and then the end is gis because it's unstressed. Vegas, Vegas. Las Vegas. But many native speakers will drop the loss and simply say Vegas.
And there's also the Vegas residency at Chaos.
For example, seeing the Las Vegas Strip for the first time is a sight I'll never forget, and that is true. Las Vegas has some of the world's best restaurants. That is true. I've seen some incredible performances in Vegas. That is true.
The little girl I met in Las Vegas.
In Las Vegas, there are no Uber drivers now.
Here's somewhere I've never been, Los Angeles.
It's like me standing here in Los Angeles.
So here, that first part, Los, is pronounced exactly like Vegas, Las Vegas, even though in this case, the spelling looks like it. And notice the next part, Angeles, Angeles. The last sound is an is, Liz, Liz, Angeles. Now, in this case, always say Los. So native speakers don't just say Angeles. They always say Los Angeles. I grew up just outside Los Angeles. Los Angeles traffic can be terrible during rush hour. She moved to Los Angeles to pursue acting. Now, although natives always say Los when they say the full name, natives commonly say LA. So in all the examples, you can replace it with simply LA, LA.
The water district that serves LA and San Diego.
That's more than New York and LA combined.
Let's review this one, Boston. The issue I hear is that last sound. It needs to be unstressed, so it sounds like a tin, Boston. Boston. Boston is famous for its universities and rich history. I've always wanted to visit Boston in the fall. The Boston Marathon is one of the most famous races in the world. So notice here, you see the, but the does not belong to Boston because proper names do not take an article. The United States of America is an exception, but here it's the marathon. Boston describes marathon and tells you which one.
Lalisa DeCisa has won the 2013 Boston Marathon. It is his first Boston Marathon.
I noticed it when I was a clinician in Boston.
I grew up in a traditional family outside of Boston.
That was the city. Let's look at the state. Massachusetts. Massachusetts. So notice here, the sound you hear the most is chew, chew. Just like the verb chew, to chew, or you can think of a train, choo, choo. And the N part is pronounced as an unstressed sits, sits. Massachusetts. Boston is in Massachusetts.
How could it be that a guy from Boston, Massachusetts...
I used to live in a small town in western Massachusetts.
I was born in Massachusetts and grew up on the West Coast.
Winters are very cold in Massachusetts. That is true.
Massachusetts has, has wet and dry towns.
Let's move on to this fun city, Chicago. So notice that SH pronunciation, sh, sh. And it's an unstressed vowel for that I, sh. Chicago, Chicago, Chicago. Chicago is known for its deep dish pizza. Have you tried it? I haven't. Sorry, Chicago, I wasn't a fan.
It's time for Battle of the Bites, Chicago pizza.
And did you know it gets really windy in Chicago? Or you can say she took a train from Boston to Chicago.
University of Chicago.
And I lived in Chicago for 2.5 years.
Now, Chicago is the city, and the state is Illinois. Illinois. Make sure you don't pronounce that S on the end. It is entirely silent. It is never pronounced. Illinois. But noi is the stress sound. Illinois. Chicago is the largest city in Illinois.
And he had heard about this magical place, Chicago, Illinois.
He grew up in a small town in Illinois. Illinois has some beautiful state parks.
We do. I think that's actually the state motto of Illinois.
Yeah. So he took the bar in Illinois, passed the bar.
Have you been to this city? Houston. So notice the beginning is Hugh. It looks like the beginning spelling of house or how, but it's not. It's Hugh, ew, Hugh. And then the end sound is unstressed, so it's stin, stin. Houston, Houston. Houston is the largest city in Texas.
I was born and raised in a small town south of Houston, Texas.
We have family living in Houston. I've traveled through Houston many times. So notice when I say through, it means I enter Houston and I leave Houston because Houston is a hub where many flights transit. So I've gone to Houston, got on a different plane and left Houston. That's travel through Houston.
Speaking of Houston, I have to show you a mural. Work from Houston as long as you want to.
Houston is the city and Texas is the state. So notice that first sound is exactly like tech, high tech, the tech industry.
I direct the Free Market Institute at Texas Tech University.
But you need to immediately say cis, cis. So you have that tech, but instantly cis, tex, tex. So you have to add that S, Texas, Texas, Texas. I've never been to Texas before. You can find lots of cowboys in Texas. You have to try barbecue in Texas.
Now, Texas.
I was in Texas testing their 5G network.
Let's move on to the coast, Miami. Miami. So notice we have three sounds. My, am is the stress sound, and then a long E, Miami. We spent our honeymoon in Miami. Miami has beautiful beaches.
It has a different atmosphere than their close rival, Miami Beach.
He's from Miami.
Miami has lots of causeways that go across Biscayne Bay.
The Miami Herald, the Washington Post.
Another beautiful place, the state of Hawaii. Hawaii. Again, there are three sounds. The first sound is unstressed, so it's a H, And then Y is the stress sound, and then a long E, but it's the unstressed sound. So you'll hear Y more. Hawaii, Hawaii. But make sure you get those 3 sounds. That's the mistake I commonly hear when my students say this. They're going to Hawaii for their honeymoon. I'd love to go surfing in Hawaii. The beaches in Hawaii are breathtaking.
Let's go to Hawaii and get a bunch of frogs.
I'm from Honolulu, Hawaii.
Let's move on to a beautiful and maybe underrated city, Phoenix. Phoenix. So of course you heard that PH as an F, just like with phone, Phoenix, Nix. So you have that KS together, Nix, Phoenix. Phoenix gets extremely hot in the summer.
On a scorching summer day in Phoenix.
My cousin lives just outside Phoenix. Phoenix is one of the fastest growing cities in the US. So here, remember, you need the in front of US, United States of America.
On one of my flights from Phoenix to Dallas,
Wayne is from Phoenix, Arizona.
Let's look at Memphis. Memphis. Again, we see that PH, which is pronounced as F, fis. Memphis. Memphis is famous for its live music. I've never been to Memphis, but I'd love to go. That's true. Elvis Presley's home, Graceland, is in Memphis.
On this day in Memphis history.
I grew up in Ohio, Cincinnati, not far here from Memphis.
I was 80 miles from Memphis.
Let's review Seattle. So notice that is the stress sound, Sia. And the native speakers will pronounce those T's as a soft D, and it sounds like dol. But it's an unstressed sound, Seattle. Seattle is famous for its coffee culture.
I mean, the Seattle coffee was really good.
It rains a lot in Seattle during the fall. We took a ferry from Seattle to the nearby islands.
See, when I was a kid growing up in Seattle,
Whether it was Seattle or Dubai.
Let's review Washington. Just like Boston, Houston, notice that N sound is a tin, because it's unstressed. You can say Washington, D.C. is the capital of the United States. Washington is also a state. Seattle is the largest city in Washington. The state of Washington, not Washington, D.C. Very confusing, right?
There are some in Washington.
With the stuff that goes on in Washington.
Seattle, Washington.
Our next place, which looks simple, but I hear a lot of mistakes with. Listen to the pronunciation, Oregon. Notice there are 3 sounds, are stressed or, and then aura. And then we have an unstressed gin. So just like Houston, in, but instead of T, of course, we have a G, gin, Oregon. My sister lives in Portland, Oregon. Oregon has stunning coastlines and forests. We went hiking in Oregon last summer.
I'm from Portland, Oregon, in small boats off the Oregon coast.
The Oregon Museum of Science and Industry.
Here is a place that native speakers cannot spell because the spelling and pronunciation are very different. The pronunciation is Arkansas, which does not look like this spelling. So notice that silent S, the very last S is silent. So it's saw, just like the past simple of see, saw. And that middle sound is unstressed as well. So it's kinsaw, Arkansas. I drove through Arkansas on my way to Texas. Arkansas is known for its natural beauty. That movie was filmed in Arkansas.
South Carolina, Arkansas, District of Columbia.
In Arkansas, they have since passed laws.
I have, but I am from Arkansas.
Here's a place I hear a lot of interesting pronunciations. Niagara. And you can think of it as Niagara Falls, which is iconic, but Falls, that's standard pronunciation.
So think about it as Niagara Falls.
So let's focus on Niagara. There are 3 sounds, ni, Niagara, Niagara, Niagara. The view of Niagara Falls is absolutely breathtaking. Did you know that Niagara Falls is in both the United States and Canada? One of the cutest towns I've been to is Niagara-on-the-Lake, about 30 minutes from Niagara Falls.
Niagara-on-the-Lake is only a short drive away.
That is true. If you ever go to Niagara Falls, just go 30 minutes further and visit this town. You will not regret it.
Oh yeah, Niagara Falls.
We did Niagara Falls.
Oh yeah.
Now let's go further north to Canada and the largest city in Canada, Toronto. The issue I hear with this pronunciation is students pronounce the vowels as full stress vowels and they pronounce it as da, 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 but it's Toron. So ta is unstressed. So you don't hear it as a full vowel, ta, Toronto. Now, I pronounce it as Toronto. I drop that middle T and just pronounce it as Rono. But it is common for native speakers to say Toronto, Toronto.
They're not in Toronto.
So if I'm reading the news and I want to sound more formal, I would say the weather in Toronto. I would pronounce that T most likely, but the first sound is always unstressed because it's the schwa. As I said, Toronto is the largest city in Canada. Toronto is not the capital of Canada, so if you thought that, it's not true. And I live about 4 hours from Toronto. That is true.
That was in Toronto.
Now go from LA to Toronto.
And this is the city I live in. Say it out loud. Now listen to how I say it and you can compare your pronunciation. Ottawa. Ah, a lot lazier, a lot more unstressed. The first sound is aw, aw. Not an O sound like the spelling, aw, aw. Now, those T's are going to be dropped to D's, so we use a flat T, duh, duh. And it's an unstressed sound, and then wah, wah, unstressed as well. Ottawa, and the syllable stress on the first sound, Ottawa. Ottawa is the capital of Canada. I've lived in Ottawa for about 10 years. Ottawa has the longest outdoor skating rink in the world. That is true.
I think of the words of Ottawa-based poet Brandon Wynn.
We've seen deadly attacks in Ottawa and Sydney and
out in Ottawa.
Let's go to the West Coast and review Vancouver. Vancouver. So notice that middle sound is a long coo, coo with a K, k, coo, coo. And then the end sound is unstressed, ver. Vancouver. Vancouver is surrounded by mountains and ocean. If you love nature, Vancouver is the spot for you. The 2010 Winter Olympics were held in Vancouver.
That's the population of Vancouver.
The Vancouver School Board has an Aboriginal focus school.
And our ship left from Vancouver, headed to Korea.
Now you have improved your pronunciation, and remember, if you want my feedback and analysis of your pronunciation, you can get that in the Finally Fluent Academy. And of course, make sure you like this lesson, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you're notified every time I post a new lesson. And you can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can click here to download it or look for the link in the description. And here's another lesson I know you'll love. Watch it now.